Hi, hi, hi. Very different video today. Different background, different setup. Today I want to share a personal story that of a realization I just had that I thought would be really useful for you. So, I have had some health issues that I have been struggling with, and I know that a lot of the projectors that I serve also have varying types of health issues. And I found myself this afternoon feeling very, very frustrated because yet again I was struggling to have a bowel movement. Now, before you freak out as we talk about shit and all those sorts of things, there will be a parallel for you, even if digestive issues isn't something that you struggle with. So, what was interesting for me to notice is how frustrated I was getting, how much it was causing me to get stuck in my day. And this has been a pattern for me. Everything I do with my clients, I'm my first client, so I'm always walking myself through things. So I went to go and do a task that didn't require a lot of thinking, so I could do what I call like tapping while working. So, I'm mentally processing the way I would when I'm tapping, but just while I was like, cleaning stuff, we're decluttering the house. And I found myself defaulting back to an EFT model, which I use when I can't think very well, which basically sounded like, even though I can't go to the loo, I deeply and completely accept myself. And pretty quickly, I realized that I was doing something that I encourage my clients to be careful that they don't do, which is realizing that I was trying to use the tapping in order to gain a direct result of being able to go to the toilet. And it doesn't work most of the time. The point of tapping is to be able to help you accept what is, be with what is. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, I will feel better if I can meet myself in my frustration. And I was like, okay, so let's do that. Very quickly, I realized, oh, there's that powerlessness again. Okay, I feel powerless because nothing I do is working. Okay, so I'm tapping along, working my way through this stuff, which is why tapping is so powerful, because you can just work through layers of stuff. And then I pretty quickly found myself asking a question that we were taught in tapping of like, what am I making this mean? And so what I was making it mean, and I'm going to track across to for you to be able to think about how this might apply to you, is I was realizing if here was the thought in my head, I can't go to the loo, that means I'm failing. That's what the end of the sentence was to me. And I was like, isn't that interesting? Now, if you have gate 32 defined in your human design chart, I have defined twice. Anyone in the mid-40s may well have it in their Pluto placement. The gate 32 has a fear of failure. So it's so interesting that your human design chart will come up. The things that you discover in your tapping are going to be like in your human design chart. It's like right there. So it's like, okay, well, that's an interesting story. I'm failing. So then I started to think about, as a counter to that, all of the places where I was being successful. What had I successfully done that day? Right? So I was creating some ammunition for myself that was a balance. Yeah? So hopefully you're following along. You can tell me in the comments if you can see the applicability of this for yourself. So what am I making this mean? It means that I'm failing. And then I could balance that. This was a trick I learned from Dr. John Martini many years ago, 13 years ago or something, when I was working with and promoting his work in Australia. And so I just started listing off, oh, I successfully did this, and I successfully did that, and that, and that, and that. And what I realized in the process I was doing was I was also using my defined gate 63 up here in the head. Because it had asked the question like, but is that true? Like, is it true that you're actually failing, Carolyn? So these pieces were clicking into place. And then the next thing I noticed is this voice that came up spontaneously that said, yes, I'm failing at this at the moment, but it's I don't know how. Now again, this is in my chart, right? I have two defined channels. So the 64 depends on I think this video doesn't practice, but on one side of the head is the 64-47 channel. Everyone has this in their chart. It's just whether or not it's a part or all of it is defined or undefined for you. So it's one of my defined channels is the 64-47. And the 47 says how, as does the 64. The 64 gets a big download, and then the 47's job is to work out how. So this part of me is like, oh, yeah, I don't know how to have a bowel movement. Now, our biological processes are run on an unconscious level, right? So if you, like me, have ever had certain systems in your body not work, you'll realise that sometimes you have zero conscious control over them. So I had to laugh. I'm like, oh, of course I don't consciously know how to do this because it's not in my conscious control. But then I thought about something that for a long time I didn't know how to do yet either. So I started working with this frame, hopefully following along, of I don't know how yet. And I thought back to, and I've got another video, when I edit this I might pop it up here, about how I met my partner. For all the way through my teens, my 20s, and much of my 30s, I was in very, very unhealthy, dysfunctional, and sometimes abusive relationships in my romantic relationships, mostly with men. But when it got bad enough with men, I ran to women, discovered that they weren't always much about those relationships. And for the longest time, I didn't know how to have a loving, wonderful relationship with one man, which is what I wanted. Now, as I record this, I have been with the same one man in a loving relationship for more than 7.5 years, which is drastically different to anything that I was experiencing when I was, 15 or 25 or even 35. Because I spent a period of time doing really deep work to uncouple and work through the layers of stuff that I had stuck in my unconscious and subconscious mind that were stopping me from knowing how to have that experience, how to attract that into my life, how to have that result, right? So coming back again, is there something that you are experiencing that you don't want to experience? That you are making yourself suffer like I was because you're making the thing mean something that it doesn't need to mean, right? So for me, as I had that realization that because I couldn't have a bowel movement today, I was making it unconsciously, I was making it mean that I was failing, right? So as soon as I had that realization and I did a little bit of collapse work to realize all of the places that I was successfully doing other things, that I am not a failure, that there are things that I fail at, yes, and there are things that I succeed at. When I was able to collapse that charge, what was left was just discomfort and a really mild amount of physical pain, the sensation of feeling blocked up, right? And my lived experience, like emotionally, I went from feeling very overwhelmed, powerless, frustrated, angry, and the emotional charge was very big. It was very hard to do anything else in my day. But by collapsing that, what I'm left with is a much more neutral, much more calm emotional experience and a little bit of physical discomfort. And I have walked myself through the reassurance of like, oh, Carolyn, you just haven't worked this out yet. But remember this other thing that you did that was excruciatingly hard that you never thought you'd solve? You figured that one out, right? So this is what can happen when we do enough tapping over enough time. We can become our own inner cheerleader. So I hope that was really helpful. I hope that this is a really good example of how powerful it can be to understand how to work with your own subconscious mind and work, be your own kind of co-regulation buddy for your own emotions, because there is no way when I get stuck in the powerlessness and the frustration and the feeling like a failure, I struggle to be creative in my business at all, let alone get on camera, let alone get on live, let alone talk about bowel movements, right? It's quite vulnerable. And to be able to feel good enough to be able to do this, it actually takes a lot. So that's a real live, pun not intended, example of how dramatic the shift can be when you can meet yourself in the discomfort, work through that. And one of those key questions is, this shitty thing that's happening, pun intended, this shitty thing that's happening that I'm experiencing right now, what am I making it mean? And you can dramatically reduce the amount that you are suffering and bring it right down to whatever tiny amount is left. Sometimes I can collapse everything that's in a particular situation. But if it has a physical component like this, I think I have probably dropped the emotional intensity of this from a 7 out of 10 down to about a 1, right? So there is hope. Please learn how to tap or how to do some work with your emotions if you don't know how. There's always links below this video. And if you have kind comments or insights to share below this video, then go ahead.